Right. We're going for real now. Welcome to the Elliot Reeves Show. I am Elliot Reeves, and I'm joined today by Michael Jojo and Jojo Fraser.
Hi.
Lovely to have you both here.
Thank you for having us, buddy. Appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure. So we'll start off with a bit of an introduction. Jojo, this is the first time we've met, so I'm really looking forward to hearing your story and going deep in conversation with you.
We like it, yeah.
Michael, we'll start with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Your name isn't spelt like how it's pronounced, is it?
No.
Let's start there.
So Ujoa or Ujoa or Ulloa, depending on where you're from. But yeah, my dad is Spanish. He's from the northwest of Spain, La Coruña. So I very rarely say my name out loud because people would never know how to write it down. But yeah, my dad's from Spain and moved to the UK when he was 14, I believe. So yeah, it makes me stand out. No one can pronounce it, but it makes me stand out, so I like it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about your, who you are, what your background is, how you got into what you're doing, the whole story.
Okay, so I trained as an occupational therapist, graduated back in 2011, I believe.
Okay.
Worked for a private occupational health company for about 3 years, doing mainly health surveillance work before not enjoying it as much as I should have. I've always been interested in fitness and health, and I was always fascinated by the anatomy and physiology side of things from my degree. So that made me go into personal training. I thought it could be quite fun for a little bit. I didn't think it was a long-term career, if I'm completely honest. And yeah, I trained as a PT, moved up to Edinburgh and started working as a PT for a big box gym, like most personal trainers do.
Yeah.
Shortly after doing my course, I started to become quite unwell, and long story short, I found out I was lactose intolerant, and despite going to the GP many times, going for hospital checkups, blood tests, cameras inside of me,
Jesus.
No one ever suggested that diet could be the cause. So it just kind of made me realize once you get your diet right and you start eating in a way that your body likes, it can completely change your life, not just physically but mentally as well. So that kind of led me into nutrition, and I did a few nutrition courses, Body Type Nutrition, the Nutrition Academy, and I've just been fascinated with it ever since. So now I run a online personal training company. About 90% of my work is online personal training, online nutrition coaching, and that's where I am now.
Awesome.
That's me.
Yeah, good background. Jojo,
Hello.
what's your story?
Oh, goodness. Where do I start? I am a mental health campaigner, although the word campaigner, it makes me sound like a bit of a crazy person banging on doors and stuff. And I like to have a bit more of a relaxed, down-to-earth approach. So you could call it mental health reality TV. My book, Mommy Jojo Uncut Time for a Mojo Injection's a bit like that. Mental health reality TV. I'm currently doing the audio.
Awesome.
And I'm reading out and I'm going, did I actually write that? So yeah, a podcaster, blogger, writer. I'm all about really honest content creation that helps people get the mojo back. So I've changed my name. You can't call me Joanne anymore. It's Jojo because it rhymes with mojo. But yeah.
And you've gone through a rebrand recently as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it was tough. And there will still be a section on the website called Mommy Jojo because I'm still a mum. But I feel, and I've had messages since to say, look, I love your content. We all need mojo. I'm a business owner or whatever, and I don't have kids. And now I feel I can come to your page now. They said it was strange because their friends were loving it, for example, one of the messages. But because they didn't have kids, they just felt, well, is this a place for me? So I thought we need to sort that out because I'm not about one gender, whether you're a parent or not, whether I'm not about anyone can come. We all need to work on a mojo. So I want it to be a kind of happy party for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So when was the first time that you kind of kicked off the whole personal brand thing? What was the impetus for that, and why did you decide to kind of create your personal brand?
I think I've always loved to write.
Okay.
And a lot of people would say to me, oh, you need to be behind the camera more, or you need to be doing more kind of motivational stuff. Because my thing is I've always been dubbed as the happy one. And when I was younger, I was quite ashamed of that because it was almost like I was a weirdo for smiling all the time. And I've always had this.
Probably true in Scotland.
Yeah, total weirdo. And I've always had this thing where I wanted to help people, probably too much. Like, I'm obsessed with people. And my dad always said to me, WYSIWYG, like, what you see is what you get. And I believe that's my thing because I'm so honest and the mental health stats are so bad. I thought we kind of need more open, honest, relatable discussions, because we're all absolutely bonkers, and that's fine because we have this thing called a brain which feeds all these different thoughts, and we have all these feelings like I'm not good enough, or I'm jealous, or I'm, these negative limiting beliefs that a lot of the time it's just bull, but that's just part of having a brain. So when we learn to manage that and talk openly about it, it makes the world just a little bit easier to live with, I think. So.
Yeah, totally agree.
I'm liking the branding as well. The branding looks awesome, your new branding.
Thank you. Shout out to Natalie. So I used to work for Blythewood Square Hotel,
Oh,
the
okay.
Bonham along the road.
Yeah.
So Natalie and I worked together in the marketing team, and she helped me. She's now gone freelance. So we both have this passion for, when you work for yourself and you really love what you do, you're sort of following your own dream. And she's just so good at what she does. So it was amazing to work with her on that again.
Yeah. Such a big part of building a personal brand, and Michael, you'll know about this as well, obviously, is kind of mastering the social media element of it and knowing where to be and where your audience is and all that good stuff. Your Instagram's really good. I mean, if you could speak maybe a little bit about your favourite platforms and the reasons for that.
I think Instagram is by far my favourite platform at the moment. I ran a personal training company in the past, so I did all my work through them. So then when I started my own company up about a year and a half ago, I kind of had to have a bit of a rethink and see which platforms I was going to invest most of my time in. And I just found that Instagram just got the best reaction. I don't know whether it's just the kind of content I put out, but I feel like you can get yourself across better through Instagram, especially stories. I don't know if you kind of feel the same way. And I just started to get all this work from just putting out honest content in regards to fitness, which most PTs don't do.
Yeah.
They tend to follow a set pattern of posting pictures with their tops off and advertising as if they're advertising to other personal trainers rather than relating to real people that actually need your help.
Yeah, and it maybe sort of sugarcoat things as well a little bit, whereas you kind of you go for the jugular.
I do, yeah. I don't think there's any point in messing around.
I love it.
And I think that's why I've got such a good reception. And I don't know, my social media just started to build over the last year or two. And basically all my work comes through social now. It's great. A little bit through Facebook. But most of my time and effort tends to go into Instagram at the moment, and that I take the content I create for Instagram and then use it for Facebook as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I've just never quite gelled with Instagram.
No?
No, not really. I would say...
Because you're more Facebook, aren't you? Yeah.
Facebook was always my first love. I always just found it simpler to use. I understood the platform a bit more. And the sort of content I create lends itself better to Facebook. So yeah, I think I always naturally was inclined to go there. But obviously, as with the evolution of anything, it never stays the same. And Facebook now, when you're posting, you're often reaching, like sub 10% of your page without doing paid promotion, which it's frustrating. It's unfortunate. So I think a necessary part of having a personal brand is understanding how the platforms work and kind of tailoring. It's difficult because there's so many to have to deal with, and it means having to tailor your content kind of more specifically to each one, which is more time, etc.
Yeah, and it's frustrating, I guess, if you've built that big following on a platform like Facebook and seeing those numbers dwindle. I know it does make it really tough. Even with Instagram, when they change algorithms and numbers shoot up for a few weeks and then the next week they drop off completely. And if you start stressing too much about it, it can completely throw you off your game. Yeah. And the whole, paralysis by analysis kind of thing kicks in. You start putting out less content, your content gets worse. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw this. I was on Instagram recently, and they ran an update, and it meant that rather than going vertically, everything was going sideways. So you were going through the content as you would with Instagram stories. And I literally was like, are you serious? You've just killed your platform. What have you done?
So I think they tried to cover it up, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just went straight onto Twitter to see what people's response was, and it was just it was chaos.
Yeah.
Everyone was just like, what on earth have you done here?
It's where everyone goes for a rant. It's Twitter,
It's
isn't
straight
it?
to Twitter. Anything goes down. What's happening on Twitter? Yeah, I love it. But I love Twitter as well. I use it a lot for sport, not so much for kind of updating people with my work. But I love Twitter. I've always loved Twitter. I was one of the first. Did you ever use it when you used to have to text? So when they first started Twitter, the only way to update was to text a number with your tweet, and then it would update it to you.
No way.
Yeah.
That's going back.
That's old school.
Yeah. I wish I invested so much in Twitter from then. I'd probably have quite a good following by now. But yeah, it's that was.
Don't remember that.
Was years ago.
Yeah, it must have been. Wow. Good stuff. Jojo, what's your favourite platform?
I had a really good response to Facebook, but I agree what you're saying because it gets really frustrating. I feel my engagement's been really good lately, and that's perhaps, a lot of people like things and then more people see it. But there's sometimes Facebook's just not showing it to people, and they want you to boost those posts. And at the end of the day, I don't want to be spending a fortune on Facebook, and it can have an impact on your confidence and perhaps your content. So it's just keep going, stay consistent, keep your content in line with your values and what you want to do, and it's just, we need that reminder on any social platform, really. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I was told at an event at the weekend, a vision board event. Lynette Gray, she's awesome, and we were chatting to the girls there, and they were saying, "Why are you not on Pinterest?" And I said, "Oh, I do have an account, but I've not been doing a lot." "Your book's not on Pinterest. You need to get it on. There's people sitting there that want to spend money and they want to buy your book." And oh, right, okay, so I'm loading it back. Could probably do with getting someone to look after my Pinterest account. Any volunteers come in. But yeah, there's so many channels though, it's hard,
it's true.
Isn't it?
It is really difficult. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. We'll go a bit deeper here. You mentioned personal values there. Do you have your own set of personal values, and if you do, what are they?
Yeah, so I've had the chance to work with a life coach, and we did a whole session, Emma from Fourth Coaching, on values. Because I initially felt like it was really self-indulgent to take that time out for myself,
Okay.
And I thought, I don't really have time to sit and be working out who I am. Surely I know that. But being in that space where you can go, well, actually, is that really my value? Is it? And because we spend so much time going through life, we may be taking jobs that aren't in line with our values, or we may be saying yes, like I'm a yes person, which is great. But sometimes I need to say no as well. And there's probably people that will see that and take advantage as well and go, she'll say yes. Will you do that? And actually, right, take this back to my values. Okay, so one of them is freedom. So freedom to be able to work from where I want, freedom to be able to, take that trip and not be too tied down, freedom to be mindful with my kids. That it's so hard these days to focus on mindfulness and be present. And some weeks I find that my brain's just going boom, 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 because I love my job, which is great. But sometimes I need to slow down that workload and slow down all those thoughts that come in and actually really enjoy quiet moments in the day with either those I love, but also on my own. So freedom, and also, I'm a lot about people, and that's never going to change. So Emma did challenge me, and she said, a lot of this is about other people. Can you think about yourself a bit more too? So trying to work out where I'm happy, what makes me happy. I know that writing and creating content is huge because I want to motivate people. I want to inspire them. I want to remind everyone that they've got that little bit of magic in them, which so often we forget and we push it to the side.
Yeah.
But I can't actually remember. I think we came up with 5. I need to look at that.
Okay.
We change and grow all the time. So
yeah,
I
true.
could rediscover another value this year and go, right, okay.
Yeah, definitely. I changed the screensaver on my phone. So I sat down one day and I thought long and hard about what my personal values were. And I came up with basically an acronym, and it's CHAIR, CHAIR. So my personal values were compassion, humility, authenticity, integrity, and respect.
Love that.
And I was like, those are absolutely my values,
I love that.
I think just by virtue of the style of interview that I do with Inspired Edinburgh, a lot of the questions that I ask are really deep, and they kind of make you think, and I sit quite often and reflect on the types of questions that I ask and think about, if I was being asked that, what would I say? Because it's very easy to ask somebody else a question. It's very hard to reflect introspectively on, what do I actually think about that?
Yeah.
So, values.
I don't know. I guess I the way I think about it is why I got into personal training. I always try and remind myself of that as the longer I go on throughout my career as a PT. People get into personal training because they want to help people. The reason I got into occupational therapy was because I like caring for people and helping people, and I always try and put that aspect first. I don't work with any supplement companies. I don't work with any brands. I always like to stay completely independent. Especially, I find it's really important for PTs to stay independent. Are you putting the best wishes of your client first if you've got a supplement that you're trying to sell, for example? So yeah, that's the way that I always try and...
Herbalife.
Yeah, exactly. Companies like that. We won't go too much into that today, hopefully. I spend a lot of time telling people why they shouldn't follow these brands and these companies, but they still keep finding their way back in. And I get into this. I do PT because I want to help people. I always try and keep things really basic. Some people feel my approach is maybe overly simplistic. A lot of coaches overcomplicate things to make themselves look more impressive and strip things back. Decent diet, get people moving, find what people enjoy, and everything else tends to fall into place once you get those aspects right.
Yeah, good stuff. Before we started, actually, Jojo, you were saying you're doing a talk tomorrow.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you brought up was legacy,
Yeah.
which is something that I actually really enjoy speaking about.
Yeah.
In terms of your own personal legacy, I mean, what are your thoughts around that?
How I want to be remembered. I would say someone who really lit up a room, because people would say that's one of the compliments I remember. People know when you're here, Jojo. Like, what do you mean? And it's because the way I apparently make people feel. Now, it's none of my business what anyone else thinks. This is just what people tell me. I think, as someone who's putting content out there and is an influencer, if you like that term or whatever, I think it's so important to listen as well. Everyone just wants to have that space to share. And I just want to be remembered as someone that really made an impact in the well-being industry and just made people smile, laugh. I think we take it, it's so easy to take ourselves too seriously. And I do a lot of jokey stuff on Instagram, and I sing and I take song requests, and some people will tune in and probably be like, she's off her rocker. But, I've also got a very shy, calm, quiet side too. Because as I was saying to you earlier, we don't have to pigeonhole ourselves. So I just want to encourage people to enjoy life and be more compassionate and take time to listen. Because so often, we've got 2 ears, one mouth. So often we're thinking of the next thing we're going to say, but to actually really pause and hear what that person is trying to say. And why they want to say it. It's so definitely powerful when we listen. I want people to think I'm magic.
Jojo's also got a great segment at the end of her podcast where she makes every guest sing. So I went on her podcast, and
he's got a great voice.
Luckily, I didn't tell Jojo that I could play guitar as well before the podcast, otherwise it could have gone a completely different way. But
it's gone on radio next week.
Yeah, it is.
Independent radio station, Radio Haver. So,
are they putting the singing bit on the end as well?
Tuesday night at 6 o'clock on the 22nd.
Is the singing bit going on?
I hope so.
Oh wow. Okay.
Save tonight. He's got a great
I went
voice.
Save Tonight, Eagle Eye Cherry.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Good
So
song,
I thought about it because it doesn't go too high, so it's a safe bet.
Yeah, totally.
I had a lot of messages though. Boy, he can sing.
Oh no. Yeah.
Another thing that you were saying that I found actually really interesting was people being extroverted and introverted. There's a slightly, I think it's probably a bit pretentious. It's an ambivert is the term that describes somebody who is both. I mean, naturally, I would have thought you were like a massive extrovert. So when do you feel introverted?
It's funny because I was doing a podcast with a coach last year and she was talking about how she's an introvert, and I said, well, describe that to me, and everything she said, I was like, that's me. So I was like, I'm an introvert too. But yeah, I love, even when I was traveling and I met loads of people on the coast, I would sometimes take myself away for a night to a hotel and they'd be like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I just really need time on my own, not to talk to anyone. So when I'm writing, you know, I sometimes fantasize about booking a hotel for a week and just writing. And I think it's important not to have too much of that because we need to see people, we need to connect, but just to recharge, because it can be exhausting when you're going from one thing to the next. And I love to let my hair down and I love meeting people, but sometimes just to be still and to enjoy your own company. You know, I take myself out for dinner and just enjoy the food and be happy to be on my own sometimes. I don't think that's weird. I think that's quite...
Is that
quite
just
right.
the joys of social media, isn't it? Where we kind of portray this confident extrovert character when really we're not like that at all. Yeah, as soon as I kind of do public speaking, I am terrified. I want to get into doing a lot more of it, but naturally people think that you're just this outgoing, excited, extroverted character when you're just not. Yeah.
But I think you can be quiet and confident too, you know.
Yes.
I think confidence is something that's very personal, and I don't think we're ever fully confident. You know, I could be getting on stage and there's hundreds of people there and you feel that anxiety, but it's turning it into a superpower. So it's like, right, let's mash it up, you know, and let's use all this nervous energy and go, right, you know, turn it into a positive. But we're all, we've all got those negative thoughts that come in and scare us. Like, oh.
What is it they say? It's all right to have butterflies, but it's getting them to fly in the right direction.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Like it.
Love it.
I'm cognizant that you missed out on the legacy question, so I'll tee you up for that now.
I don't really know, if I'm completely honest with you. I just want to always keep those core beliefs that I mentioned before at the forefront. I just want to help people. I don't want to deceive in any way. I don't think I've thought about that question too much, to be honest.
Okay.
Great singer.
Yeah, maybe
Rock
professional
star.
singer. Yeah, I don't know. I was in a few cover bands growing up, so I feel like I might have missed out on that. Yeah, I honestly don't know. Honestly, I feel like I'm still quite early on in my career. I've only been a PT for maybe 4 or 5 years now, so I'm still kind of trying to find my path and what route I want to take. But as long as I stay true to just wanting to help people, then I'll be happy wherever I end up.
Good stuff. Do you think you identify as more of an introvert or an extrovert?
Introvert, definitely.
Introverted?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's I know on social media I joke around a lot. I take the mickey out of myself and other things quite a lot, so people think it's probably the other way around. But yeah, as long as I can help people, I spend most days giving out free advice regularly, which I think that most coaches should do. I get message from a lot of personal trainers on social media asking how to kind of get into it, especially the online coaching, and just dishing out free advice is the way to go.
Yeah, that's very good advice. Yeah, for sure. I think it's an interesting thing. I think a lot of content creators, certainly YouTubers, a lot of them actually are introverted, and I think oftentimes the reason for that is because they can have a conversation basically with a camera like it's somebody, but it's not somebody.
Yeah,
and there's something quite nice about that in a way, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've met many content creators, especially in Scotland, where you think that they're going to be this kind of big character when you meet them, and then you realise they're just really, really shy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I'm sure you've probably interviewed quite a few of them sat here.
I was speaking to someone about this the other day. Actually, is that you build up, I think, an idea of somebody in your head, and then when you meet them, you're just like they're just like me. You know, irrespective of their successes, their achievements, their wealth, anything like that, we're all exactly the same. We are human beings. Therefore, we all feel the same spectrum of emotions. We all have the same limiting beliefs and insecurities and stuff. So, yeah, absolutely.
So, what would you say you are? Introverted, extroverted?
I would have said when I was younger, I was probably more extroverted. As I've got older, I've become a bit more introverted. I don't know how to say it without sounding like a douchebag or sound like disparaging, because it's not that I have anything against people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I quite enjoy just quiet time and just time to be on my own. I think a lot of it also might have to do with the people that you actually spend time with. You have like, what is it they say, drains and radiators. So there's certain people that you spend time with and you feel uplifted and you feel inspired and you're like, oh, like, you know, I feel like doing something amazing.
Yeah.
But then you might spend time in the company of people where you're just like, I just need to lie down.
Do you know, that's an interesting one, because when you were saying legacy, and I was like, I don't want to be the mood hoover. I want to lift people up. But there's some people in my life that I'm so close to, but they're complete mood hoovers, like a lot of the time. And they say opposites attract.
We'll cut that a bit out.
Name them.
But you know, they say, don't get me wrong, we can all be a mood hoover. I could be like, my kids bounce out of bed, they're like, yeah, life. And I'm like, shut up, I'm trying. You know, we can all be a mood hoover. And I said, it's time to turn that hoover off, you know, but sometimes we need to be a mood hoover. But it's tricky. It's really hard because it can be draining. And, you know, you're having this chat and you feel like flat. But then the mood hoovers need love too. So what do we do with that?
Yeah. No, I think coming back to what you said about holding space for someone and allowing them to speak and without judgment, and just being there to listen to someone is, you know, I can't overstate how valuable a skill that is, because the number of times that you engage in conversation with somebody, and you'll say something like, just picking like, oh, I've had a sore shoulder recently. And they'll immediately flip it to, oh yeah, well, I'm like, my knee is as if it's some sort of competition, rather than being like, oh, so what happened to your shoulder? Like, are you okay? You know, it's amazing how many people derail conversations to make something in their own interest.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, I think we all need I think in school they should train people on how to listen
100%.
and to show empathy.
Yeah,
it's key.
absolutely. It's massive.
I think
Yeah.
you'll probably find this is probably part of your job. Well, your job, you listen to people all day, but I find like with coaching, like 90% of the job is just sitting there and listening. You don't even really need to give advice. People just want a space to talk and have someone, just someone to talk at.
Definitely. Well, yeah, and I suppose it's facilitating the conversation,
absolutely,
but without obstructing it, getting in the way, or often, you know, actually putting your own views across, because most people have all the answers. They just need something to remove blockages a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't, and we all have our own mind, so it's we'll never be in the mind of someone else.
Exactly.
So it's giving them that freedom to have their own mind.
Yeah.
Like my hubs will say to me, and I joke about it, and I've had him on the podcast. He allows me to be very honest. I'll make that clear before I say this. But, you know, we'll be doing the dishes and he'll be just be, you know, have his days. And I go, but you don't understand. Like, one example, right? I love dinner parties. I've always been great at dinner parties. But since we got together, now, if you Google what makes a perfect host, they will say they'll do the dishes once everyone's gone. So that's my thing. But since being with him, no. As soon as dinner's done, we do the dishes, right? Because that keeps him happy. But in my mind, I want to spend time with my guests. I want to do the dishes the next morning or when they're left, you know, put the tunes on and like, yeah, and do the dishes and enjoy that space with music. Try and turn it into a positive when you've got all these dishes to do. But he wants to just go and get everything clean. And I feel like we're not living, you know. But that's just his mind. So because I'm a bit of a people pleaser, sometimes I compromise and I do the dishes and I clean the house with him. But I kind of resent it sometimes because I feel like my hosting isn't up to par. I'll never change his way. He'll always want to do the dishes. He'll never. But sometimes I feel like, can you just get inside my head and see why I don't want to do the dishes? Maybe it's not because I'm being lazy, but maybe I just love hosting and I want to chat to my guests.
I say we get Scott on and sort this out.
Yeah.
How do you manage confrontation in a relationship? Are you because I think there's often like you get fight people and you get flight people. So like with myself, with my wife, if there's any sort of agitation or anything, I'm somebody that's just like, I want to just get out the room.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a part of this. Other people prefer to engage in battle.
Yeah, I think it's very hard, especially with young kids. They're sponges, so you need to be so careful. And there's been times that if it's the time of the month, PMS, oh dear, don't even come near me. Actually, Christmas morning, my in-laws were there, bless them. And you know what it's like, stressful. You're trying to get everything ready. We're debating which I wanted to put the fresh linen tablecloth. And he said, no, we'll put this one because it saves washing. And we were bickering. And I could see my mother-in-law going, ah. And why am I doing this? But it was PMS. I just didn't have the patience. But yeah, it makes me feel sad arguing and all that negative energy that comes up. So I'm trying to be better. I've actually started a mindfulness course to deal with my brain. So
That's
that
with Gary, isn't it?
yeah, Gary Young,
yeah.
amazing guy. The Mindful Enterprise, just amazing. So I'm going to see and journal and see what comes up there. But I think it's always better to rise above it. But what I would say, caveat here, is my issue is sometimes I rise above it too often and I never, get my way. And last year was a huge year of growth, and started to really realise my value. And well, actually, maybe I should push for that a bit more. It's picking your battles, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's tricky.
I'm with you there. I'm flight.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm flight. Yeah. Can't be dealing with it. Yeah.
I like the way you just do it so simply, and I
Yeah.
go off
Yeah,
it.
no.
Yeah,
It's fine. I
yeah.
like it.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Everyone's different. Interesting.
We're just ordinary people.
Yeah. It's funny mentioning Gary. He was my last guest
No way.
on the Elliot Reeves show with Andrew Johnson.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
I need
So
to check that.
yeah,
Damn
for sure.
Facebook for not bringing that up in my feed. Facebook, come on.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's just amazing. I can't wait to get him on the podcast, actually.
Yeah,
I
he's an
want to
amazing guy.
just do the course a bit more and get into it. But we met for a coffee in December, and I was just so zen with him, and we both had meetings a couple of hours later. But when you're just going with that mindful thing, and I'm like, oh, what is the time? Oh crap, right, we better get back to it. But he's just got this aura about him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Just,
That's meditation for you.
Yes, I mean that is a role model there though,
Yeah,
because
totally.
when you see people that way, it makes you want to buy into it,
Yeah.
And if they appear happy, and I totally believe it's genuine.
Yeah.
I was asked on the Egg podcast with Kylie Reid, do you just talk the talk? Like, how is your mojo? I was like, well, I'm not saying every minute of the day. I'm like, yeah, baby. I would say I'm very happy. I work hard on my happiness. I make sure I practice self-care even when I've no time. But I have moments where I'm like, this is tough, Dance it off.
How do you define mojo?
So to me, it's that little bit of magic that we all have. We all have something that makes us a bit special. And to me, mojo is when you have that energy, when you're in your flow and you're just, you're in your happy place and you're kind of living a life that you're judging less, you're living more, you're loving more, you kind of open, you let people be. Because I think people that, these people, they just bitch behind someone's back all the time. And I want to be straight with everyone I meet, and I've been caught into that in the past. It's kind of like, oh, it's just gossip. But actually, no. Let's focus on the bigger stuff, like our dreams, rather than imperfections of others. We can all, no one's perfect. We've all got our flaws.
Yeah, it's true.
Let's focus on the good in people.
Yeah.
And I think when you meet people that are like that, you bounce off. It's so easy to get dragged down by the negativity, but that ain't mojo. So I want to focus on the good stuff. Because, I've got a funeral tomorrow. I've been at a few funerals recently, and we don't know how long we have. I could get hit by a bus on the way home. But it's a reminder, and it's a choice. It's a daily choice. I choose to be positive today.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
It's good. I think it's helped with you've surrounded yourself with people that are really positive and amazing. And because how long have we known each other now? It's about a year ago that we met.
We met at the blogger event.
The Raw Blogger event.
Yeah.
I think
we were all speaking at that.
Yeah, we're all speaking at that actually.
That's going to be
Yeah,
awesome.
there we go. Yeah, and I don't know, we just kind of clicked straight away, didn't we? I think we both
Yeah.
had the same values and same thought patterns, and I think that's really helped with my growth over the last year and a half. I've just surrounded myself with people who I really respect and who have helped me grow professionally. and personally as well, I think.
Mhm.
Like Gavin Bell, for example, who's a good friend of
Yeah.
yours as well. He's been on the podcast, I
He's
believe.
fab.
How many times has he been on? Has he-
So we did an Inspired Edinburgh interview probably 2 years ago in February.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was before Gavin went viral.
Was it? Yeah. He's too big time
He
for
was-
us now. Yeah.
And he was also on the first episode, because this is only the third one of these. So he was on the first episode of the Elliot Reeves show.
Ah, okay.
So, yeah.
But just surrounding yourself with people like that can be really
Yeah.
motivating.
Oh, 100%.
Mm.
Yeah. It was going. Jojo said something and it triggered a thought in my head. And it's a quote that I always loved. I think it was maybe Eleanor Roosevelt that said it. It was something like, "Small minds discuss people, average minds discuss events, great minds discuss ideas."
I love
I
that.
just think it's a really powerful
Like that.
quote. It's something that I've always kind of kept to the back of my mind. And look, we're all human, but I think it's a good reminder as to
Yeah.
how we should aspire to live.
Mhm.
Another thing that one of my mentors said, which was, I found it a really powerful exercise, a sort of visualization exercise almost, was imagine that you've got two screens at the side of your head that everyone can see, and it shows what your thoughts are,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it's like, whoa, that's
So-
high level of awareness
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
It makes
Like-
you want to be a better person. You mean you want to
Absolutely.
really focus on the good thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because we at the mindful course last night, mindfulness, we had a few practices, and the final one, it was like, think about the sort of person you want to be, or think about what's coming up. And I just kept thinking, I want to be a better person. I want to be the best person I can be, you know, for my kids, for myself as well, but just to have that. But it's a daily reminder of what can I do today to be a better version. Like, I'm embarrassed about some of the things I did last year. If you're not embarrassed, then you're probably not growing enough. There's a quote there, growth's a really good thing. And they say, you know, if you look up the dictionary and what's the word they call bloggers when you're totally all about yourself? Totally blank the word. That's going to come to me. I've totally forgotten the word, but they were like
Narcissistic, yeah.
So I looked that up in the dictionary, and it was saying, you know, it's so easy to be that way, but actually, a person that says, right, if you say, right, how could you grow this year, and they've got a massive list, then they're not, because they are very aware, like, yeah, they're in the public eye and they're putting stuff out there, which sometimes is about themselves, but they're prepared to, they know that they need to change. Whereas you could ask someone, well, I don't need to change. I don't need therapy.
Yeah.
I don't need to
They
do
need it
this.
the most.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, so, yeah, I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah. Good stuff. I'm interested to hear what it's the whole new year, new you. I was saying that to you. Like, what are your plans for over this year? But also, if you had a sort of 5-year plan, I mean, where do you see yourself? What do you want to see? What do you want to be doing? Start with yourself.
Start with me. Okay. 5-year plan. Let's start with that one. I've started an online subscription group. That is going to be my main focus over the next at least year, to try and grow, especially with the new year, new me thing. A lot of people start crazy fitness fads. We won't talk about Herbalife again. They always think short-term, quick results rather than long-term lifestyle changes that are actually going to benefit their lives in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
So my main approach on social media, what I spend most of my day doing, especially on my stories, is just busting these ridiculous fads, which, it always gets a great response.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it's things that I maybe take for granted because I'm surrounded by fitness and nutrition all the time, but people just don't know what to do to improve their health. They're just completely confused with social media, newspapers, magazines, putting out horrendous advice. You walk past places like Holland and Barrett that are on every high street with whatever's in the window. What is it? Body Boom Bod or
Detox tea.
Detox tea,
Yeah.
everything. So they think this is what you need to do to get healthy, and it's not. So I want to grow a subscription group that is basically really low entry cost. I want it to be accessible for everyone, but just a no-nonsense approach to fitness.
Mm-hmm.
A nice community where people feel happy, excited, relaxed, comfortable asking questions in front of people that aren't going to judge, so that it really is kind of lifestyle changes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think over the next 5 years is just to kind of continue putting out a positive message. I don't want to be Instagram famous or anything mental like that. I honestly just want to create a group that helps as many people as possible improve their health for the better.
I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Jojo?
Yeah, I was thinking what you were saying about you don't want to be Instagram famous, and sometimes you think, oh, unless you've been on Love Island, you've made it, or the crazy stories that we're told, you know. And I meet people all the time. Every day I meet new people or speak to new people online, and some of them have got crazy following, and some of them don't. And it doesn't. It's so important to remember that's not your value. Yes, it helps to have following if you want to do certain things, but not always. It's not about your value. So I think it's really important to remember that, because I'm not going to say, right, I want 1 million followers, because at the end of the day that may open up more opportunities. For example, a big goal is to go with a bigger publisher next time with my book. So I went down the kind of indie publishing route, but I want to have a greater platform, so that's going to help get the message out there, right? But I would hope someone would pick up my stuff before I grew, like, you know, I would hope I didn't have to feel I would get to 1 million followers or whatever. You see someone that gets 1 million hits, oh, they get a book deal. I want to keep it realistic. I want to get a really good book deal for my next book, perhaps republish my first one as well with add-ons, because the book's really had an impact and it's reaching loads of people, but I want it to reach even more people, as you're saying. So yeah, more books, TED Talk. TED Talks. I love being on the stage doing a motivational talk. That's where I come into it. And I got a bit of feedback. I'm always asking for feedback, and someone says, oh, you gave me goose pimples, or you made me quit my job, or, you know, stuff like that. And you go, right, I need to do more of this. I love being on stage. So yeah, just inspiring people, really.
Yeah.
More books, more stage work, maybe some TV as well. So
Awesome.
dream big.
Yeah. I wish I could remember who it was, but like when you were mentioning, you know, having 1 million subscribers and selling, or you know, 1 million followers and selling more books. There was a story that I heard on, I think it was on a podcast, and it was a woman who had 1 million subscribers, and she wrote a book, and she was like, I'm going to sell loads of them. She didn't sell one.
Oh my days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which goes to show that having a big following and actually converting leads or having sales or anything like that, there's I don't want to say there's no correlation, but it doesn't instantly mean that you're going to, you know, write a book, sell it to loads of people.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because I've always been a writer, and I'm overwhelmed by how many people with my following have purchased my book. They've gone on, and then people that have gone on and reviewed it on Amazon. That's crazy. So it shows the impact we can have, and I think publishers need to remember that. Don't just look for someone with the biggest following. If someone really genuinely loves to write and they have an authentic voice, but it's a very competitive market, so you just need to keep going and hope for the best.
And they talk about as well, like depth, not width. You know, Gary Vee loves to talk about that. So in terms of having a really good sort of connection or relationship with your followers and building that rather than just having loads that barely even know you exist.
Well, I'm sure you probably follow quite a few people on social media who have maybe like 2,000 followers, but their engagement is far better than someone with kind of 30, 40, 50,000 followers.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
quality, not quantity.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I wouldn't say that we've got huge followings by any means, but the fact that we can impact people's lives positively and you get good feedback for that, and yeah, I think that matters way more than it's the social media generation, isn't it? Kind of portraying this image of successful and happy and fit and healthy and your career's going perfectly, rather than actually just being you and having some authenticity to it.
Yeah. It's a good segue, I think, to talk perhaps around sort of mental health and things like that. Jojo, I know it's something that you're especially sort of passionate about, and it's something that you've written and spoken about very openly. So yeah, just I don't really have a specific agenda on this one, but just maybe what are your thoughts around mental health generally?
I've always had higher levels of anxiety, and I've worked really hard to manage it over the past 4 years, to the point that I can go on a stage and I know it's going to go well. But when I was younger, and it's from my dad, so my dad and I are so similar, and he's the inspiration behind why I set up Mummy Jojo, and one of the pieces went pretty much viral when he got depression, but he's always struggled with anxiety, and I could see myself going down the same path. And I thought, right, when Dad was diagnosed with depression, I thought, right, I need to sort this out now, because it runs in our family. Some people are more sort of prone to getting things, and I just thought I really need to look after my well-being. We all have anxiety, of course, but the level, I would shake an awful lot in not piano lessons, but when people were watching me. And I used to shake when I was singing, and I would just shake doing my driving lessons and stuff. And I was like, what is this? And it's just learning to change that nervous energy. So I think talking openly about anxiety is key. So many people write to me about it, how they battle, and educating people on the triggers, like too much caffeine. So I would only have, 1 coffee a day and really enjoy it, rather than have 5 and be like, ooh.
Yeah.
It really impacted me. Too much alcohol really impacted me. Not enough sleep really impacted me. So being strict and saying, right, you're a fragile little soul here. You need to nourish, take that exercise, even if you feel you don't have the time, just to clear your head and get those happy hormones in to counterbalance, And with depression and stress even, these things are the starter before things like depression come and just go bang. I mean, my dad, it was terrifying to see someone so full of life just waste away. And we were so lucky that it turned around, and it was the last medication they tried. We were desperate. We thought, we'll never get him back. And the doctor said, look, there's one thing we can try. And then I have no idea. Thankfully that worked. And he loves my book. He tunes into the podcast. He's the biggest fan, which is incredible, because I lost him for like a year and a half. It was a different guy, and I missed him so much. And I took it personally. So I think a lot of us are taking the mental health of others personally, whether it's stress or burnout and they're pushing you away, or anxiety or depression or grief or whatever impacts your mental health. We need to not make it about us. It wasn't about me. It was Dad needing help. It wasn't anything I did. Blamed myself. So I think a lot of people blame themselves, and it's a personal thing,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Thanks for opening up.
No worries.
Yeah. What about yourself?
I think a lot of people come to me with wanting physical help, so they may want to lose weight or improve the way that their body looks, and a lot of the time that stems from mental health. I don't profess to be an expert on mental health by any means, but I'm aware of what a healthy lifestyle, a good diet, sleep, managing stress, how that can impact your mental health. I've had problems with anxiety in the past as well, and I know the triggers when I'm working a bit too hard, which is common at the moment. If I find my diet slips, if you have a diet that's really high in processed foods, alcohol, you have a 60% chance increase of experiencing anxiety and depression. So these little things can make a huge impact. So as I said, I'm not an expert in mental health, but I'd like to think that by educating people and helping others to make healthy changes, it can really help. Yeah, and a lot of times the people that come to me who want the physical help, they don't like to open up at the start. I know mental health is slowly becoming something that we can all talk about, but it still is a taboo subject that people don't quite like to open up. I think so.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. And then people only like to open up once they start to feel relaxed in your presence, and you've maybe been working with them for a short period of time. I don't know. Do you not agree with that? Or
It just depends. I guess that's down to the individual. I just saw something the other day. Actually, it was I can't remember the woman's name. She plays Liz McDonald in Coronation Street. And she was on it might have been Loose Women or something like that, and she said something that offended quite a lot of people, which was about the fact that everyone's talking about mental health and it's becoming the new like Gucci handbag kind of accessory type thing. Because I like to play devil's advocate on things, so I try and see it from both perspectives. And it might be that somebody's agent is like, this will be really good for your career if you open up about your mental health. And I don't like that at all. But I have seen a lot of high profile people. Tyson Fury was very open about his struggles, and so there are more people talking about it in the public domain and in this sort of celebrity world, but I don't know in terms of just like normies or like
Yeah.
ordinary people whether it's something that people are becoming more comfortable. So, and it's interesting for me to hear that you're not convinced because
Not yet. I think
wouldn't
especially with men, I think we're less likely to open up than women are. I think from the get-go, women are more likely to, especially when I do consultations to maybe take on new clients, they're more open to talking about their previous struggles with mental health.
okay,
Whereas men would maybe just focus on the physical, and then if they like you after a few weeks or months, they might start opening up to those sorts of issues. And I don't know, are people maybe making the most of possible mental health struggles? Maybe it's just becoming more acceptable to talk about, and that's why there's been a surge in people.
maybe.
I think the person that said that needs to look at the mental health the suicide statistics,
Mhm.
because I think it's very dangerous to discourage any type of conversation.
Mhm.
Now, fair enough, someone's editor may have said that to them. Right, okay, it's pretty shocking. But at the end of the day, we all do have mental health. So it's still an amazing thing to talk about. Even if the editor, for example, was wrong to say that, any conversation about mental health is important, I think, because the stats are terrifying.
Yeah.
And if that helps one person, even if it's the wrong, they've got ulterior motives, I just think anyone that discourages conversations around mental health, I think they're idiots.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. In perhaps slightly in her defense, she's somebody who has been seemingly open about her own personal mental health struggles and depression in the past.
Okay.
So she can very much relate to it, and perhaps it's a frustration that she sees other people talking about it, and maybe it's not, because I think that there's a spectrum to everything, and I think there's a big difference, say, when you're talking about depression, there's a big difference to being depressed because you're doing a job that you don't enjoy, and you've got a family that don't care about you, and having depression and having to see a doctor and having to maybe go on antidepressants. I think
Yeah.
there's a big sort of gap there.
Yeah, I guess it's a case by case.
Yes, but in terms of actually being able to speak about how people feel, I think it's vital for people's health. And the number of the male suicide rate in the UK
Scary.
is
It's the biggest
something
killer.
that I've spoken about a lot in interviews, and it's still something that's
It's terrifying.
shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give you both an opportunity. I know that you're both speaking at, I think it's called the Edinburgh Wellbeing Festival,
Yeah.
in a couple of weeks' time. So
Yeah.
so what have you got planned for that?
Well, I was at it last year and I was hosting some of it, and it was just the most amazing weekends, full of people really open-minded to talking about our lifestyle and wellness and how the two go hand in hand, tea and toast, I call them. So one of the sessions, 4:00 on the Saturday 26th, we're going to be in a panel, and my life coach Emma will be there too. So she'll be talking about growth, and we'll talk about nutrition, anxiety, finding your reason why. Michael had a really nice feature in my book about, it really motivated people actually about why you do things. Because it's complicated, our health, there's all these reasons why we should, but it's so hard. So my intention for that session is for people to come in, feel really relaxed, and to be really empowered at the end of it, and to have had some kind of mojo injection, as I like to call it. But I'm not joking around. I want people to go out like going, yes, right, 2019, let's do this. I want them to really get something from it, from self-esteem, from confidence, from education. I'm fired up for that. I think we go for it. We give all our energy to that session. I'd love to see loads of people there.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, I wasn't important enough last year to be invited along, so this is my first year.
There you are. You've been validated.
I have, yeah. There we go. All my hard work has paid off. No, Jojo's been incredible. Jojo's invited me along to join her on her panel in the afternoon, 4:00.
Yeah.
4:00 in the afternoon. I'm also running a seminar in the morning about kind of getting started in fitness with another personal trainer, Iona Bruce, who lives in Glasgow. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great event. I think our talk's going to be, we don't really know where it's going to lead. We've got a few points that we want to cover, but hopefully it will just flow quite nicely. Yeah.
We've had a planning meeting on Friday and just set some intentions and had a chat. But, yeah, we don't want it to be too rigid, and we want to get people involved as well, and really get them doing something. We're all going to have a little practical session with everyone too, and really get them in the right frame. And yeah, thousands of pounds worth of coaching, but you come in that session, you'll get again.
Yeah.
Just maybe a couple of takeaways for people who have any interest in sort of public speaking or whatnot. How do you prepare for speaking? What are your kind of go-tos?
So content, I mean, a lot of the content I have already from, blogging the book. I know it resonates with people. So just having some quiet space to scribble down ideas, video myself sometimes, or just, even if I'm in the car and I'm short on time that week, I just talk to, and really get some good tunes on and dance around and get the energy and visualize myself on the stage and how I want people to feel and how I want to feel. So a bit of intention setting, a bit of creative planning, and then practice. Yeah.
So is it quite structured and scripted when you tend to do?
No, I wouldn't say that, because I do like to leave a little bit of room for what comes up. But there's things that I want to say, and I want to make sure I say them. Every talk's different as well. So finding out whoever's booked me, what they want me to cover, or if they've got an idea, and then try and throw in something that's quite current for that week. I don't want to become a robot just standing on stage. I want it to be different every single time. So having things that I want to say, but also adapting it to something that's happened in the news, current affairs, or something in my life. So if I've been at a funeral, or if I've been at a party and I've met someone that said something, because stories are powerful. When you're on stage, people want stories and they want to be able to connect. So a lot of people watching and writing something as I go. Someone says something, oh, that would be good, and really just So that's my thing.
I like it.
Jojo's much more of a pro than I am. Yeah, I've not done much speaking before.
Too
so
modest.
I'm taking Jojo's lead here. I don't know. I think when it comes to health and fitness, most of my job is busting myths, and that tends to go down quite well. So I think most of my talk in the morning will be that. A lot of the time it is busting myths, stripping it back, and then actually telling people what they can focus on. Like we spoke about this in our planning meeting. We actually want people to have some things they can take away from it. They don't just want to hear us jabber on about general well-being. They actually want to be able to go away and be like, right, I learned this today and I'm going to implement it into my life. So that's going to be hopefully our main goal, isn't it? And Emma's stance, who's joining us, is pretty much the same too.
Yeah, she's powerful. She's a powerhouse, that woman. I mean, she's been in the industry for over 20 years and actually going into the life coaching space, and she trained in Animas coaching, one of the best coaching schools, and the things that come up, she was saying, is so transformational, so powerful compared to what she's seen in other places. So I think she's got a lot to offer.
Cool. Good stuff. Is there anything that you guys would like to address, speak about, bring up, ask? Whilst we're here.
Whilst we're still here, yeah. I don't know. We should have prepared that, shouldn't we?
Well, not at all. I mean, if there's nothing, then there's nothing.
I feel like I've said quite a lot.
Yeah. Well, we've basically done an hour.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah,
okay.
and we've covered a lot of ground.
We have covered an awful lot of ground.
It's been great. I've absolutely loved having you both. Seriously, it's been an awesome conversation. It's been very effortless, and I've really enjoyed hearing your views and your perspectives on things.
Oh, thank you.
So
And
I hope other people have enjoyed this.
Thank you very much.
Depending on whatever platform you've watched this or are watching it on or will watch it on, then like, share, subscribe would be awesome. So
thank you very
Cool.
much.
Thank you very much,
for
Elliot.
listening.
Appreciate it, mate.
it's a pleasure. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, man.